Hi everybody, this is Rhys Barber from Audiology Associates. Thanks very much for watching our earwax removal video today. Oh my goodness, this was such a tough one to do. You can see this wax is dried. It's physically dried onto the eardrum. It's so deep, it is so hard. There's this little bit of dry skin coming down from the top as well, which is anchoring everything into place. This is really not what you want to see when you look into somebody's ear canals for the first time to have this taken away. But what we can see here, I've popped a little bit of olive oil in. This just helps to do a couple of different things. It just very slightly softens the surface of the wax, which helps me to get a better grip. It's also going to help to penetrate and get behind that wax, which is also going to loosen it, because this is actually physically on the eardrum here. So it's going to really restrict the movement. This is possibly the worst case scenario for wax, really. It's dry, it's deep, it's stuck to the eardrum, which means there isn't a great deal of wiggle room down here. If we get hold of this, we can't kind of play it back and forth to loosen this off. We've literally got to try and lift and peel. And what I'm doing here is looking for any slight parts of that wax which are a little bit looser than the rest, but trying not to put too much pressure on. You'll see a very, very slight movement there at the top, which is just where the top portion of wax is just starting to come away. This layer you can see just above the suction tube at the moment is a very big piece of dry skin, which is actually coming down and anchoring over the top of that wax as well. So I'm looking here for any looser sections that we can exploit to try and work this bit away before we go back down onto that wax section. Guys, I just have to say a massive, massive thank you for all your support during this time where we've not been very consistent with our videos. As you know, we lost one of our audiologists. He's sort of moved on elsewhere, which means that at the moment we could do with 2 more full-time audiologists ideally, but it means that me and Taylor are really, really stretched covering both clinics. What I've decided I'm going to try and do is put these videos out on a Friday, which just takes a little bit of pressure off me, but it also gives you a little bit more consistency. And we did have a couple of negative comments, and you were so lovely. We did post a bit about it yesterday. You were so lovely coming back saying, you know, just ignore it. We'll be here when you come back, which means a heck of a lot to me and Mrs. B. But yeah, if we just stick to a Friday upload moving forwards for the foreseeable, just until things settle down, that'll be fab. Thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate all your understanding. You can see now with this last... So I've got a frog in my throat. You can see this last little bit now. It's starting to loosen off the base of the canal. Now we've also got it in the anterior the anterior recess. So it's actually stuck down in there as well. So it just a nightmare, absolute nightmare. The lady was an absolute diamond. She was so good. She sat through the whole thing, and I did say, look, you know, it can get a little bit pinchy sometimes when we're taking wax this deep, and you may feel a little bit lightheaded or giddy, and that's just something called the caloric effect. It's to do with temperature in the ear canal. So when you're suctioning very, very deep like this, you're drawing all the cold air to get sucked into the tube, and that just chills the ear canal very, very quickly and can make patients feel a little bit lightheaded or giddy. But as it was, she did really, really well through the whole thing, and she was so relieved when this does come away. You'll see now I'm pulling away. We've loosened this section to the left hand side, so I've pulled that away, and then what I've done then is I'm trying to slide that section up and out of the anterior recess if we possibly can. But any person doing earwax removal will take a look at this and say exactly the same thing. It's never a simple one to do. What complicates this one even further, as if it needs more complication, is the fact that we've got this dry skin sitting at the top, which is also anchoring everything in place. So this is all dry to the canal walls, dry to the eardrum, stuck to the skin at the top, nightmare. But it's starting to loosen now. It's starting to come away. You can see we're really getting that kind of sideways movement now. We're taking it out of the recess. So you can see I'm alternating a lot here between the standard size ulnar tube and the fine end. I wonder if you guys can work out why I'm doing that. I'll give you a couple of seconds to kind of ponder on that, why we're kind of constantly switching back and forth. Think about what the difference is between these two sets of tubes. But you can see now we're just trying to get that section there at the top right hand corner across, just to pull this away. You can see it's become far more mobile now. It's starting to come away from the eardrum. We can get a little bit more movement to this now. So the reason we're switching between that fine end and the standard size ulnar tube, the fine end is great for, you know, really getting into a specific spot, which was great for trying to loosen this out the canal. but it's not great for suction power. So when you go in then with when you've loosened it, we're going back in then with the standard size ulnar tube, and we're then using that suction power to draw that away. We've put a bit of olive oil in here as well. The other reason you would maybe use a fine end when it's this deep as well, it's less noisy for the patient. And it also doesn't drop the temperature quite as quickly when you're using a fine end as opposed to a standard size ulnar tube. But you can see now that's really come away from the eardrum. So we've gone from a flat section like this, and we've actually twisted it now so it's out this way. Downside, it makes it a little bit harder to get hold of with the suction because the tube can't get the good grip there. But we're just back to the fine end now. You can see I've got to work in a much smaller space. So back to the fine end. Let's reposition this wax. And then hopefully if we can draw enough out from that recess, we can put the standard size ulnar tube back on here as well. This is such a fiddly job. I say this in a lot of videos. Eardrum, tip your little finger. So it gives you some idea how delicate and how small a space we're working in here. The fine end, that's a really good question. I think it's about 1.5, 1.8 millimeters. I'm not 100% sure. I have to measure it one day, but it's very, very small. So you can see it's a very fine work here. Now, look how dark the wax is. This has been in here a long time. This patient did confess to using Q-tips. I was very sorry they did, but they did confess to using that. Just as we lift that, can you see that section trying to get out the recess? This is what's anchored it in. Don't forget we've got that valley just in front of the eardrum, so that it's dry down into that spot. So it's this kind of, it's shaped a bit like a penny. It's very thin, but very wide. So as you're trying to pull this out, imagine trying to get a penny through a much smaller circle. You've got to kind of reposition it to try and get it through. And that's what we're doing here. You can see it's stuck here to this top right-hand section. And I'm flicking between the top, the bottom, just to try and loosen this, really get this away. But we've got that dry skin section. Let's go and work back on that now. Let's just try and pull some of this dry. Look at that. That dry skin's actually covering the top end of this wax. Let's uncover that top section now. There we go. There we are. You see how it's starting to pull down. It's starting to pull away. So don't forget we've loosened the bottom section, but it's wedged down inside that recess. If we can pull the top, they won't get that wedge effect, and we'll be able to pull this forwards, and then we can lift out of the recess then. We've just got to tidy up some of this loose skin. Oh, there we go. There. You can just see it starting to come down there. See how it pulled away from that dry skin? It's still hanging on a little bit there. So let's see if we can just loosen that section. There we go, it's starting to just block it in. That's the other downside of the fine end. It doesn't take a lot to block it up. But now we've pulled it down, we can lift. There you go. And out that comes from the recess, and we'll draw this down. Oh my goodness, this patient was so pleased to get that out. They've been struggling for months and months on end with this. We just got this little flap of dry skin here. We're just gonna take this away. There we go, let's pull that away there. And there's another section at the top here. Now you'll see there's a little bit of dryness on the actual eardrum itself. It's very tucked up into the corner, so it's very difficult to get to. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave that there, but I'm going to let the patient, I've told the patient to use a little bit of olive oil and really put that over the next couple of days. What that will do is it'll loosen that last little bit and it'll come away. When it's right in the corner like that, it's really difficult to get to, and you're going to be pressing against the eardrum a lot on to get that one away. And we've already done so much with this patient. The last thing I want to do is cause any discomfort. But you can see here, this is the patient's other ear, and it's almost exactly the same. So it's very, very deep. Cotton buds used again. Luckily this time though, it's been pushed into the recess, but it's not actually stuck against the eardrum, which means it's a little bit more mobile. We've got a bit more sort of wiggle room in here, if you like. I'm just trying to lift this base section. You can see that a little bit of olive oil just coming up over the bottom of the camera, so we'll just clear that off. We'll go back in again. That's the other downside of using a bit of olive oil. We're going to go in now with a fine end. We're just going to try and pull around the corner. There we go, and as it detaches, then we saw that smoother side come away. There you go, a little bit of dry skin. See that grayer kind of color underneath there? That's a little bit of dry skin. So let's pop this out. There we are. We're just going to slow this down so you can see this coming away. There we go. You see that? Just there we are. You can see that smoother underbelly to that wax there. We'll take a look behind that there. Eardrum looking a lot better. You see a couple of these little dots of dark wax and things in there. But same advice for this one, pop a little bit of olive oil and that'll get rid of that. So we've got or just under 2.5 centimeters. I've cut it down too far to see inches. 14/16 of an inch. That's pretty accurate. 7/8. There you go. That's an easy one. So 7/8 of an inch, just over, well, between 2 and 2.5 centimeters there, I would say. But yeah, you can see the colors as well. This wax has been here so long, very, very dark. Patient hearing so much better after that. Well, guys, thank you very much for watching our earwax removal video today. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of your ears, and take care of one another. I shall see you again next Friday, and we're going to keep posting every Friday moving forwards, just for the foreseeable until we things quieten down a little bit here in clinic. But as always, guys, thanks again for being so supportive, and we'll see you real soon. Bye, everyone.